AFK is being nerfed into the ground, and Jagex is taking away the second monitor playstyle forever. The recent thieving changes made it so that the skill is no longer 15 minutes AFKable, and Jagex is truly ruining the game because they're going to do this to all skills. I really hope you guys can hear some cynicism in my voice, but this is how quite a lot of people feel, which is actually quite valid, because Jagex is actively trying to promote more active ways of gameplay instead of AFKing your way to a maxscape. Truthfully, I think that this is the right approach, and I also think that they might have made a mistake with these recent thieving changes, just not in the way you might think. In this video, we'll go over the matter at hand and how Jagex is seemingly approaching skilling moving forward with the Road to Restoration roadmap. Leave a like to support me and to get this video seen by as many people as possible. Subscribe if you're new, as we're trying to get to 15k subscribers by the end of the year. And enough yapping, my name's Chevalric. Let's talk about AFK and RuneScape. Let's start off with something that I find very important. The definition of AFK. Because if there's one thing that annoys me to no extent, is people calling something AFK that is not. AFKing a boss whilst you still have to eat food or dodge a mechanic is not AFK, it's low intensity. AFK mining whilst you still have to click every 15 to 30 seconds to replenish your adrenaline, obviously when you're not using Juju potions, it's also not AFK. AFK, in my mind, means not interacting with the game and still being able to get consistent experience. AFK combat training at Abyssal Beast allows you to AFK for 15 minutes. Crafting sharp shell shards allows you to AFK for 3 minutes, or woodcutting eternal magic logs for 5 minutes are all things that I consider AFK. So TLDR, a consistent time above a minute or so where you don't have to interact with the game at all and gain consistent experience. There are obviously levels to how AFK something is. Most activities range between 1 to 3 minutes when it comes to processing skills like fire making, herb, or crafting. And then you have medium length AFK like woodcutting in eternal magic trees or fishing at Priv Waterfall for about 5 to 6 minutes. And then you have the outliers or the extremely AFK methods, aka any activity that would log you out after 15 minutes of you not spinning your camera or interacting with the game at all. Think pre-nerf thieving, AFK combat training, sandstone mining, etc. So what's the issue at hand? RuneScape always had AFK being a part of the game, and if you watched Ars Will Miss It's amazing documentary about the evolution of combat, one of the many reasons, while small, why people disliked EOC initially is that they couldn't AFK their combats anymore. And I'm not going to sit here and claim that I've never AFK'd. Hell, whilst I'm writing this script, I'm AFKing firemaking for my 120 all cape, and I truly believe that AFK is a part of RuneScape's core identity. Yet it has gone too far. As of me writing this script, Jagex recently changed how AFK thieving worked regarding pickpocketing, and people are afraid that that will be a new precedent for all skilling moving forward. Before the changes, you were able to AFK most low to mid level thieving NPCs for 15 minutes straight, and the higher ones for about 5 minutes till your crystal mask buff ran out, and there were some outliers there with the aura and stuff, but I don't like considering auras, but it is a thing, and the aura would allow you to even AFK some of the higher level creatures for 15 minutes as well. As of these changes, the low to mid level NPCs sit at around 3-ish minutes of AFK, and the higher end creatures between 1 to 2 minutes. These rates are with all the buffs active besides the aura, things like pickpocketing back with the best in slot perks, the skilling outfit, crystal mask, and 120 thieving. To quickly explain how thieving actually works now, every NPC has a base success rate of 75% and can be increased with various buffs. Each level counts as 1%. So, if the NPC can be pickpocketed at level 20, once you level 45, you have a 100% success rate. This chance can be further increased by 15% when using Crystal Mask, and another 5% with the Oblivious perk active. NPCs above level 100 thieving also have a 15% flat success rate buff to negate the fact that you cannot get 100% in some cases. So they actually start out at 90%. At least that's how I understand it. Most other NPCs actually do have a flat 10% or 10 pickpocket buff on top of their 100% as well, effectively giving you a base chance of 110% when you have the correct level and no buffs. I think most of you listening to this are probably thinking, Chef, that actually sounds great. What are people mad about? Well, the major change doesn't actually come with the success rates, however, but with it decreasing over time. The longer you pickpocket the same NPC, the lower the chance gets you succeed. For example, let's say you start off with the base 110% success rate. That would mean your first 11 pickpockets have a 100% success rate, and then it drops down by 1% each time, ultimately resulting in you getting caught and having to re-click the NPC, which will reset the percentage back to the 110% you had earlier. Lots of numbers and maths. But what this means in practice is that pickpocketing still has the same loot/similar experience rates, yet the AFK-ness has been gutted by quite a lot. But is this a bad thing? Jagex recently spoke in a livestream on the concept of having 3 pillars when it comes to balancing skilling: XP, GP, and how AFK a method is. For example, heists are super active, great GP and XP. This means that there are 2 pillars maximized and 1 pillar, the AFK-ness of the method, minimized. Great balancing. If you put in effort, you should be rewarded. Yet in many cases with AFK and RuneScape, you're also getting rewarded by a lot, and especially compared to the active gameplay. We will dive deeper into that concept in just a moment, but let's stay with the thieving skill for now. Are these changes good? Obviously, in my opinion. And I would say that they're not, because I would have also nerfed the XP rates on top of the changes we got. Oh boy, the comment section is going to have a field day with that take, but I actually truly believe it. As it stands right now, thieving or pickpocketing has become slightly more active and still gives amazing XP. Obviously slightly nerfed, but it's still pretty good. And the loot also remained the same, which allows it to compete with heists that are ultra active and great in XP/GP and hour as well. That shouldn't be the case. I personally feel like pickpocketing should be your way to obtain great supplies, seeds from master farmers, chronos from archaeology people, or runes from mages in the wizard's tower, making the loot pillar the highest and the XP plus AFK-ness pillars roughly in the middle. Because let's not act here that 1 to 3 minutes AFK, depending on what type of NPC you're pickpocketing, is not AFK. Because it still is. People act like you just have to click like every second like you do in old school, which is just not the case. Like I mentioned before, most things like firemaking, herblore, or other processing skills sit around that same rate. Sure, woodcutting or fishing sit slightly higher as gathering skills, so a support skill being in between those is suddenly bad? Doesn't this actually show good balancing in the game, or am I going crazy? People seem to be so caught up with this particular method, but I feel like everyone is forgetting the bigger picture in my opinion. Should every skill be just as AFK-able? Because I don't think so. I think it's fine that something like agility, dungeoneering, or in this case thieving, are the more active skills, where mining, woodcutting, or even construction are a bit more AFK. It's not like you cannot AFK thieving at all anymore. 1 to 3 minutes is pretty damn average for most skills, and I bet you still do those whilst you're working with the 1 to 3 minutes AFK timers. Because that last thing is actually one of the main arguments people seem to be making regarding AFK. I'm an adult now, I should be able to make good progress whilst working or doing other adult things. And my question is, should you? First of all, should you be playing a video game during workouts in the first place? But truthfully, who am I to tell you that? And I also do the same. But should you be rewarded similarly to someone who actually does put in the effort into this game when you're just working and just clicking once every 50 minutes? I'm being a bit unfair here, as many people who are in favor of AFK seem to also be okay with XP/GP nerfs, and truthfully, I wouldn't be opposed to that either, especially the XP nerfs. If Jagex gutted all AFK methods by 50% experience, kept the loot and AFK the same, I would have also been quite happy. At the end of the day, there are more ways that lead to Rome. Yet, I feel like with thieving, Jagex is just trying to make it a more active skill across the board. And is that really a bad thing? Personally, I feel like most skills kind of turn into number go up just in a different logo. The methods don't really vary enough between skills, which partially is a RuneScape issue, but take something like star mining in, I'm gonna say it, the forbidden word, old school RuneScape. It's super AFK, low XP rates, or AFKing the popular gemstone crab, which is fully AFK in combat experience and doesn't require you to interact with the game for like 10 minutes. The difference there is that you need to go find a new star, or go through the hole and attack the mob again, requiring you to interact with the game. With Saren Stones, for example, you can just spin your camera every 15 minutes and AFK for 10 hours straight, not interacting with the game for a single second. And I think that's simply not the way forward. And it also just makes the game feel like a blur of just number go up and skills no longer actually having identities, which is a broader issue, but this also does apply to that issue. I do, however, want to go back to something I said at the start of the video. AFK is a part of RuneScape. So how would I solve it? Well, I would do it in 2 ways. First of all, I think every skill should have an AFK method available. That sounds strange after me ranting about how I don't like AFK, but they just shouldn't all be as AFK. Something like Thieving being 1 to 3 minutes of AFK is fine in my eyes, where woodcutting being 5 to 6 minutes is great for that skill. This will eventually result in certain skills having more of an active playstyle identity, and some of them being more AFK, whilst they all still are AFKable, just some less than others. On top of that, I would look at experience rates, in most situations, because some are just okay, I guess, and try and find a balance between the active method and AFK method, which could also mean buffing some active methods where needed, whilst nerfing the AFK ones, or not nerfing one, or not buffing one, whatever applies to which skill, right? The fact something like AFK fishing is like 50k experience worse than the most active click-intensive fishing frenzy activity is a big issue, because no one is going to do the latter. If Fishing Frenzy was 3 times better, people would consider doing it, as it will save you a lot of time, regardless on how shit the method is. Like, certain skills will always just be boring or shitty to train, but if the reward for the activity is actually good enough, whether that's money or experience or both, people will generally do it. And don't get me wrong, certain skills can't be not AFK, and I'd argue AFK is part of its core identity. Woodcutting, mining and fishing are probably the most classic examples of that. And like I said in my first point, some skills can just be more AFK than others, yet I do think we should draw a line. I think the maximum of AFKness should be roughly around 5 to 6 minutes, with certain outliers of maybe 10 to 12 minutes where it makes sense, yet with very bad experience rates, of course. In my perfect world, I would be able to log in after a day of work for 2 hours and get the same amount of XP as you did in your 8 hours of AFKing. This can obviously vary depending on profits, etc, but that would be a good baseline in my eyes for AFK versus active in RuneScape. And one final point, more so a question for everyone. Should the maxscape be obtainable by every single person playing, or should it be something that does require you to put in some actual effort? Let me know down below, and also let me know what you think. Comment down below, and please be nice. I know some of these takes are fiery, but I just want to have a friendly discussion. Leave a like to help me out, subscribe if you're new, and my name's Chevalric, and see you guys in my next video.